Hey, welcome to the Strategic Success Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Fricke. Thanks for tuning in. All right, it's here, you guys. The first workshop I have planned for 2025 will be on January 20th and 21st. As you know, I don't do group coaching. I don't do one-on-one coaching. I don't do consultations. I do a handful of workshops a year, and this is where I deep dive, open my brain, and dump it in a way that gives you as much information as well as some practical insight so you can, tackle whatever the topic is. So this class, it's my Fix Your Income workshop that is specifically geared for people who are already in the real estate industry, meaning title processors, real estate agents, appraisers, contractors, you name it. If you support or are part of the real estate industry, but if you have on your 2025 goals to start investing to do your first or next deal, this is the class for you. I am going to deep dive, what is a deal? Why should you invest in real estate? What is necessary to succeed in real estate investing? How do you find these deals? How do you fund them? Whether you have money today, whether you can qualify with a bank or not. I'm going to include things like sharing about creative financing and whatnot. And this class will be a 2-day deep dive. Lunch will be included both days, and a 100+ page manual will be included as well. This is going to be in the greater New Orleans area, in person only. Guys, tickets are $397 for folks who are in the real estate industry. Get your ticket today at CourtneyFricke.com. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. All right, you guys. I'm excited for this episode. My good friend Adrian Smude is here with us, and this is going to be a good conversation, really, no matter where you're at in the U.S. or different countries, things like that. But for sure, anywhere in the U.S., I think that this is a conversation that I think every investor should think about this topic. So, Adrian, let's go ahead and introduce you to the folks who don't know, who've been living underneath a rock and haven't seen your highlight or yellow shirts. Who are you? Where are you based out of? And what do you do in real estate?
Well, Courtney, thanks for having me on here. I buy mobile homes, so not mobile home parks and not using the mobile home within the park. It's the home and land together. But for some reason, this is like a forgotten little niche, and there's some bad stereotypes about them, which I'm sure we'll cover today.
Sure.
But I grew up in Central Florida, so in between Tampa and Orlando, a little town called Plant City, Florida, where the winter strawberry capital of the world. And my real estate business is based out of there. I buy within 30 minutes because a lot of our mentors eventually got down to a 30-minute range. So I said, let me just start where they finished at. Let me not try to, learn the hard way.
I'm having to undo some bad habits of I've bought far away and I'm trying to get back closer to home. So I get that. All right. So today's topic, guys, we're going to dive deep into mobile homes. As you guys know, I own mobile home parks. I've owned mobile homes. And I'm actually, like, for example, I've got to make an offer on a mobile home in a park right now. So it doesn't have the land. Like, I've got different things like that in my portfolio and in my career that I've dealt with. But what's important is I think that investors should say, hey, should I consider mobile homes? And what role could they play in your portfolio, maybe in your flipping business, all of that. So speaking of that, Adrian, I know your story, and tell me this, did you start out in mobile homes, or did you start out in a different asset class?
Definitely didn't start out mobile homes. So I'm in Florida where mobile homes are like hurricane missiles. So I grew up as them not being safe, don't live in a mobile home, the bad stereotypes.
Sure.
I started my real estate career actually as a really bad tenant. My friends and I had a bunch of parties, spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties, pudding wrestling parties.
So, and this was before the internet, right? Like, but might be photos of this that exist on the internet, like spaghetti wrestling.
Yeah, we have photos. I don't know where they ended up, and videos. The one that we didn't get caught on was we had a pool party in the living room. We actually blew up a little inflatable pool and we had a party in the living room. We didn't get in trouble for that one, but I'm sure we left some mold in that house.
So anyways, landlords are taking notes.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't rent to Adrian. No, I'm just kidding.
You don't rent to Adrian at 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I got tired of being evicted and I bought a house. And back then, this is like 21 years ago, you could just buy a house. You just sign a piece of paper and they gave you houses. Right. And then I learned why we sucked as tenants. I became the landlord and like, oh yeah, guys, let's not do that in my house.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because your friends moved in with you and
yeah.
you
So
were
yeah. Oh
helping
yeah. Thank you
support
for
to make
filling
the
that gap
payments.
in.
Yeah.
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 Moved all my friends in. House hacking before I knew what it was. I just didn't want to pay my
Sure.
mortgage. And then I bought another house because I'm living for free in this first house. Like my
Yeah.
friends are paying my mortgage. So
Right.
at 20 years old, that's really, really cool because you're not with mom and dad. I buy the second house years later, and the banks, that's all I knew at the time. There weren't podcasts like this out there. The bank
Yeah.
said, you can buy another house, but you're going to lose a little bit every month. Don't worry, real estate goes straight up
Yeah.
and you'll refinance in a few years. So in a
Mm.
few years, when I went to refinance, real estate market was going down. That big recession that we had.
Yeah, let me pause you right there. It sounds like when people in the last year have been saying, marry the house, date the rate. Yeah, okay, keep
Oh
going.
yeah.
Keep going.
Uh, so then whenever
Uh,
the market's going down, I actually had one of the adjustable rate mortgages. So my
oof.
payment was going up.
Oh,
And my ego said, no, don't sell, hold on, hold on. I
figure
finally
it out.
gave up at the very bottom. So I bought
Oh,
the house at the top, sold it at the bottom, exactly opposite what we're supposed to do. But that taught me some of the best lessons I've ever been taught in real estate. Because that first house, I didn't lose it. My tenants, my friends, were
yeah,
paying my mortgage.
yeah,
So I bought it right and I was renting it right. And then that short sale has made me extremely conservative. Even though I'm in the mobile home
yeah,
business, people always think that's crazy, conservative mobile homes. It's the numbers.
yeah,
I'm very conservative with the numbers.
yeah. And so that second house, you were forced to sell it and sell it. They had to take less than what it was worth, right? So they short saled it. Do you still have that first house?
I sold the first house about 5 years ago for
Okay.
at that time, the largest check I ever received at that time. Now I've received
Wow.
larger ones, but it was a nice
Yeah.
six-figure check.
Well, and that speaks to some power. So, all right, sweet. So houses, some hard lessons in houses, right? Because that's the thing with
Mhm.
real estate is you can make money, you can make some, you can make a lot, but you can also lose some and you can lose a lot. So you definitely had some bumps and bruises, but you decided to stay in the real estate game. But what drove you to mobile homes? Like from houses, right? The houses that, made you spar and learn hard lessons. What drove you to the mobile homes?
I bought a few more houses after that one, and I started attending the RIA meetings, the real estate investor clubs. And there I heard some of the seasoned investors, the shiny haired, or if they have hair at all, they sit in the back of the room. They don't need to do another deal, but they're there
Yeah,
because they love it. Well,
yeah,
as you do it all the time, you interview them and start talking to them
yeah,
because they've been in business longer than we've been alive. Well,
yes,
they all talked about mobile homes quietly at some point in their career. I
yeah,
realized, well, they're smarter than me. Why don't I just check out these mobile homes? So then one
right.
night at the RIA meeting, friend Jessica said, Adrian, my broker has someone that needs to sell their mobile home. Would you be interested? Because I had all those conversations, I said yes. I was also frustrated with the market at the time.
Yeah. So you're
And
just
so
looking for a deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
I went out there. Long story short, I bought my first mobile home in 1965, single wide, zero point zero 0.09 acres, so like a sliver of land.
Okay.
And we'll just round up. I had $20,000 in it and put it out for rent, 475 a month.
Is it the
We
one
don't.
in the picture behind you?
It is not. It was a little bit
Okay, okay,
nicer
okay.
than this one
A
behind me
little bit
here.
nicer, huh?
I do
Um,
own this one behind me though.
okay, so and we'll talk about then I guess we'll talk about the one in the picture behind you later. But so 20 grand into it, that's like purchase and rehab, you would
Yeah,
say. And then you were renting out for 475 total, right?
yeah. Hey, you don't need a
And
calculator to be like that. Those numbers work.
yeah, yeah. I think that's something that's like that's greater than the 2% rule.
Hmm.
It's like probably 2.25 or something without pulling out a calculator. But yeah, and so that's hard, right? It's hard to say, obviously you have some taxes and some insurance tied to that. So that's gross. But it's something to kind of say, okay, hey, this is a 1965. And so I already know what people are thinking. That 1965, if you've seen one, which you and I both have, um, they look like, time has done a number of them, right? They're a little retro, and not
Hmm.
not not the not the version of vintage that's nice, right? So what do you think? And I think a lot of people have these misconceptions, right? That a mobile home is a depreciating asset or things. What are some of the misconceptions about mobile homes that you think people often have?
Well, the number one misconception is the trailer trash. You were being trying to be really nice with your wording, but I'll just say it. The trailer trash is what people think of. And if we can't get past that, you're
Yeah.
never going to invest in mobile homes. And it's funny because there's a Netflix special out, country song. We poke fun of at it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be true.
No.
Most of my residents are blue collar, handyman, handy women, and they take pride in their home
Right.
and they fix it up and they make it their home after they move in.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite things to see is I drove by that trailer in that mobile home park that I need to make an offer on. So much pride of ownership. And pride of ownership can convey to every asset class, right? It's
Hmm.
it's it's a people thing, not an asset class thing. So in the same way that I have seen people tear up A-class single families, right? In the
Hmm.
same way that they're going to tear up a mobile home because it's the people, not the asset. And so
Yeah.
it all goes down to who are you renting to, which is a critical part. So there's that mentality though of like that, and we do hear people talk about this, like your assets attract the type of the people,
Yeah.
but what do you say to that, right? Like, oh, well, because I mean, my ideal property is nicer single family homes in nicer neighborhoods, right? But doesn't mean that you can't attract good, people and good families to your trailers. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I mean, one of our mentors, Pete Fortunato, teaches us that if you buy a good home in a good area, you're probably going to attract a good tenant. And the
Yeah,
exact opposite is true. You have a bad home in a bad area that you don't fix up and you don't take care of, who you're going to attract.
right.
So I think it's that. I mean, you already said it. We can have a stick-built home, a concrete home, a apartment, and they can be in bad areas, and they're going to attract people that are going to tear it up.
Yeah,
We have properties above the affordable housing space. So in Central Florida, we have people paying $2,100 a month, very premium, same as they would be paying in a nice HOA right down the road. But they want that acre of land with a fenced
yeah,
yard. There's different things that they value, and they take
sure.
really good care of it. So it doesn't have to be the trailer trash. I'm putting air quotes for people just listening.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be that. You make it that by buying a property in that area or
exactly.
by not taking care of it.
It's an overgeneralization. Same
Yeah.
thing if people think that all landlords are slumlords. We're not, right? And so the
Yeah.
same thing, all people who live in a mobile home. One of the things that you actually taught me was the verbiage. So do you want to go through that? When you came down here and spoke at my meetup years
Mhm.
ago, you went through that. So what is actually the right thing to call
Oh,
what's right behind you in that photo, which is, generally, I'll let you kind of go
uh,
with it. And if you guys are listening on like Spotify, Apple, whatever, this is a great opportunity to go to YouTube to see the photo behind Adrian.
yeah.
But yeah, speak
So
to that.
the photo behind me is a 1960s that came with most of its siding.
Most of it,
Uh,
meaning not all of it.
yeah. So what do we call, is it a mobile home? Is it a trailer? Is it a manufactured home? That's what you're referring to here.
Yes.
And my answer is when I am buying, they're all trailers. I don't care what year it is because trailer sounds really cheap and it brings a perceived value down. But
Yeah.
if I'm selling or leasing, they're all manufactured homes. It sounds stronger and more expensive
Yeah.
because our words matter. Yeah, there's some technical years on it, but I use those two terms. I never move away from manufactured home if we're leasing. And then if I'm buying it, I'll let the seller correct me one, maybe three times. I kind of have to feel that out
Yeah.
before I move away from trailer into mobile home.
Yeah.
And they usually don't get me over to manufactured home.
That's good. That's good.
Because
That's
if
good.
they're using the term manufactured home, they're usually asking more than I'm going to pay.
Yeah, exactly. Come look at my manufactured home,
Yeah.
straight out of the
Yeah.
factory. Yeah, so yeah, I can absolutely get that. What are some other misconceptions around just,
Mhm.
mobile homes? We can call them trailers, mobile homes, but um that you think people, again, most people are conditioned for houses or maybe even like apartments and stuff like that, right? But what do you think investors, some of these misconceptions that they may have as well?
It's the financing. I get this all the time. You can't finance mobile homes.
Hmm.
You can't. I love the fact that people think you can't finance them. It doesn't matter what I'm buying, anyways. I don't use banks. I'm bank free since April of 2022. So
Oh,
I
wow.
use human beings, friends and family, the
Yeah.
sellers, and then I'm actually not afraid to use my own cash. So
Yeah.
any strategy that you've heard that works on other type of properties, we can use it on mobile homes. But because people think they're not financeable, they just run away because no one's had to learn the non-bank world in the last, was it, decade and a half, almost 2 decades, because
Right.
banks have been cheap and no one, their skill set is soft on that, unless the people have been going, all the courses that we've been going to, and
Sure.
that has been the big thing is we can still finance them. The one that's behind me that I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes, I just paid it off, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Um, okay, because people always say, right? So, and let's talk through that dialogue. First of all, if someone's like, "Hey, oh, you can never," I think the words "never" in real estate's a very a damning thing because
Yeah.
if you
It's
say,
a
"Hey,"
closed-minded.
exactly, if you say, "Hey, never," I'm like, "Oh, now you just gave me a challenge." So, okay, so generally speaking, when people say you can't finance mobile homes, a lot of times that has to do with the year, the trailer. That
Hmm.
has to do with your, basically, has it been moved,
Yep.
one or multiple times? But what are you referring to in general?
So people always say that, and you just brought up some good points. I'll throw out the date, June 15th, 1976. There
Mhm.
is no bank that's going to finance older than that.
Mhm.
So that does, I mean, can you technically finance a 1978? Yeah, getting it to that qualification with the right bank and everything, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
The 1980s, yeah, you can start doing it. If you really want to go the bank route, I always tell people go to community banks and credit unions,
yeah,
and actually have conversations with them. But we just go the route of other human beings, friends and family that we actually know, not someone we met on Facebook, that wants to put their lazy money to work, or the seller.
yeah.
These older ones, like 1960s and 1970s mobile homes, the sellers typically know that they are not financeable. So they don't
Right.
tell me, why don't you just go to a bank? Like they
Exactly.
probably bought on owner financing. So it's not this new thing that doesn't mean they know every bit about it, but I haven't gotten a lot of pushback on those older ones.
Yeah, I think that that's great because, and especially you're saying like a lot of people think, oh, when I hear a lot of people think one way, I immediately want to go run to it, right?
Yes.
As a contrarian, because what does that mean? It means, like as Henry Ford says, if you think you can't, you're right. Like
Hmm.
if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right, right? And it's that idea that then when so many people put in that mental limiting belief, right? That mental block of, oh, well, it can't get financing. Great, you can't get financing. You probably should leave them alone. Wink, wink, right? But it's like this idea there that like people pigeonhole themselves. Well, like, hey,
Hmm.
when something is not easy to do, that is one of the best things. It's called a market inefficiency. That is one of the best things you can actually go after because when you solve small problems, meaning it's like basically easily attainable, easily doable, everything's lined up, everyone can do it. But when there's actual hurdles or where you have to figure things out that people don't want to go put in the effort to figure it out, that's where the competition falls away. And you and I don't really live in a world of competition where we have like, oh, we see people as our competition, but it's this idea of like folks are always saying, hey, I'm in a saturated market. Great, go find the thing in your market that everyone's either afraid of doing or they think's not possible, and then just go figure out how to do it. And the money that you make is relative to the problems you solve. And so by you learning how to get seller financing and private money loans from everyday individual folks on these trailers, you're overcoming that hurdle. But that it's like, hey, I understand in the traditional world I can't get financing on this, especially when it's older, right? So what I'm able to do then is I am able to actually go ahead and, use that as a negotiating tactic, right? Because again, a lot of other buyers, they're struggling, right? But then, hey, I'm going to use my skills to be able to get, a great deal for, everyone involved. So, um, any other misconceptions? So we talked about this generalization of, and I hate the words, but trailer trash, right?
Mhm.
And then, because I've got family members, I mean, I live in New Orleans, but my family is from Mississippi. I've got multiple family members who live in manufactured housing, right? And so they're like, I get that, like that there is that connotation, right? We also talked about the misconception on financing. Any other misconceptions, like a big one that you feel like it's necessary?
Yeah, let's talk about the values always go down. They're a
Oh, like a
depreciating asset.
depreciating? Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
If you wouldn't talk to an appraiser, you're probably right. But I'll tell you that my net worth says very, very differently. Um,
Okay.
Here's why
Interesting.
I think that they've been going up in value. There's a few reasons. Us investors, what do we buy? We buy a cash flowing asset. We're
Right.
looking for how much money do we put in, how much money do we get out every month. Well, if houses, apartments, all these other asset classes have gone up and up and up. Now I joke around that people will finally come down to my level. So there's finally starting to be more people buying mobile homes.
Yeah.
Well, if there's more people buying them, there's more demand and they're starting to buy with higher and higher prices.
Sure. They're
Because,
trading for different values. Yeah.
yeah, so that alone, just the investors have caused the price to go up.
Hey guys, Courtney Fricke here. We've got Aussie Steve. And look, if you have a deal that needs to get moved, Southeast Louisiana, even in South Mississippi, we're your folks. We are the largest dispo company, really in the greater New Orleans area, even Southeast Louisiana. We have great contacts in South Mississippi as well. Steve, why do we move more deals than others?
Just we're very deep in this market, so Greater New Orleans can be really confusing for national wholesalers. The comps are hard. We change block for block. We got flood zones. We get a lot of hurricanes and the likes, and just all the national platforms don't have the buyers on their list. So we are deep with buyers, but we're deep with relationships, which is really important in this market. So we love JVing with out-of-state investors.
Like I said, we do a ton of business with other investors. So go to homebuyerlouisiana.com/Courtney, fill out the information. We'll get in touch with you and we'll move this deal along. Yeah.
It's very similar to the people that live in them. You can say it's worthless home, like the one behind me. I mean, there's probably no appraisal value in this home, but the person that
Right.
lives there, there's a value of a roof over their head and it's somewhere safe to live.
Exactly.
So they're
Utility,
waiting,
the value for the ability to
yeah,
use it. Yeah.
they're willing to pay for that. And if they're willing to pay more for that, now we're
Right.
willing to pay more for it because we need rent. We want rent coming in. So as rent demands have gone up, it's raised the rent in the mobile homes, which is then raised the amount we will pay for it.
Right.
So they have gone up a lot. That's for the rental world. Let's talk about the real quick the fix and flip world because we can fix and flip these. People can get bank loans.
Right.
Usually we look at like 1990s and newer. You can do some 80s, but really it's the 90s and newer. And on those, people buy payments, right? That's
Yeah.
what they did. So now the rates went up. I think maybe they just came down a little bit. They're higher than they've been, essentially. Well, that means a lot of people can't afford what they used to be able to buy. And they still want maybe a half acre of land and a home. Well, now they were like, well, we didn't really want a mobile home, but yeah, we'll buy one. So my friend Mark, he fixes and flips mobile homes, and he has more deals going on right now at higher profits than he's ever had, and he's been in the business a long
Wow.
time. And we think it's all because of the interest rates. People are now flooding there because it's the first time home buyer space, the workforce
Right.
house space. So those two
Well,
right there has caused the price values to go up.
Well, then you also have things like insurance and property taxes that look very different on
Oh
mobile
yeah.
homes, than they are on houses. And so you're in Florida, I'm in Louisiana. We both have the insurance crisis, but you have an even higher crisis with property taxes, right? And so what happens when someone is in, like, let's just say a $150,000 house, which would be considered an affordable, I don't know in your market, but in my market, 150,000 is like a very affordable house.
Hmm.
What if that becomes unaffordable, right?
Hmm.
And so not that mobile homes are a downgrade, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, well, what are some way like, when you're looking at, property taxes and, I know in my portfolio, I have houses and I have mobile homes and mobile homes tied to land. And when I look at those, they're treated differently from an insurance standpoint and a
Hmm.
property tax standpoint. And so there's a level there that you kind of look at some of those things. I think that it's important when you talk about valuation, people who always say that this is a depreciating asset, part of that is like the value part, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
important, right? Because yes, you can go on Facebook, at least in my area, and you can find people practically giving away the trailer that is pictured behind you, right? Something's
Mhm.
missing, have it siding, it looks like it's beat up. Most of that because it's cost prohibitive because you have to move it, right? And so when people say, "Hey, I've got to move a trailer," then there's some additional cost, right? But the other part of that is um, that is a 1960s trailer, and I have some in my mobile home park in Mississippi. A 1960s trailer, it's still there.
Yeah.
We are 60 years later, and it's still there. Now, it may have
Mhm.
needed rehab. So did the 1960s single
Yeah.
family stick brick house. You know what I mean? Like, but there's a level there that it's still there. And
Yeah.
so that's an
And
important part to keep in mind.
yeah, to that point, this is where we like the stereotype that they're depreciating assets because when the county thinks that and it lowers our property taxes and
Exactly.
insurance kind of does the same thing with it, I
Yes.
don't correct them. I mean, you're
Market
right.
market inefficiencies here. Like
Yeah.
we like to go toward market inefficiencies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Since we're on the topic of insurance and you brought up like we are two of the harder states with insurance, personally, I do decide to self-insure some of my properties. We can still get
okay.
insurance on some, but if I have no insurance options, like the one behind me right now, which insurance seems to change every day in Florida, but right
Yeah.
now, all I can get is liability insurance on this one. That
Okay.
means the value of it just dropped because I have a higher risk.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
January
also your
1st of this year,
sellability factor, right?
yeah, yeah,
Between your personal, the value to you, right? It's riskier, stuff like that. And then also to whoever you would sell it to.
yeah. So when insurance stopped insuring these older ones in my market, that just meant I all of a sudden was paying less.
Mhm. Okay.
I mean, that's all it is. I'm still willing to take the risk if
So
I'm
you still
rewarded for
keep
that
them?
risk. Yeah.
So you still keep them. You didn't sell the ones that were uninsurable in your portfolio, right?
No, I think it is important to say I have enough properties and I sleep well at night to be okay with that. If I had two or three properties and no insurance on it, I would not sleep well at night.
Well, and I think that's important. So our good friend and mentor Pete Fortunato is very vocal about the fact that he self-insures in Florida. He does keep liability because it's hard to self-insure
Yes.
from people who want to sue. Um, but Helene just took out a handful of his properties, and so he said, if I would have been my first year in business, this would
Yeah.
be very different, right? But he's been in business since the '60s, and so it's a very different case for him. And so I think that's important to kind of keep in mind is your capacity and your access to capital, your current state of liquidity,
Mhm.
or really your the word will come to me later, but it's this, how stable are you financially that you can handle if the worst case hit happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, and you may or may not know this. Can your tenants get renters insurance, like in the case of a fire?
We have not heard of any issues. We don't require it, but we strongly encourage it. And I know we have some people with them. I can't tell you on what years
Okay.
that they have it or not.
Yeah. Because that would just be a
Yeah.
thought, right? Like, 'cause a lot of times, renters insurance, if there's a fire and it was found to be started by the tenant, they left something cooking on the
Mhm.
stove or, whatever. Um, and it seemed to be based on their actions versus, a wire shorting or whatever. Um, then that's when renters insurance steps in.
Mhm.
And so I was just curious about that part. So, all right. So we're talking, did you have something else you want to add to that real quick?
No, I think we're good there.
Okay, cool. So we've been talking about these misconceptions, and there is a level here that, when people hear mobile homes, manufactured homes, trailers, Can you hear all those dogs in the background?
Yeah.
There's someone walking right outside, and so you guys may or may not be able to hear all of them, but someone is getting a kick out of yelling to the dogs in my house and my neighbor's house that they're barking. Anyway, I'm from the country, but I currently am trapped in the city, and so I have foot traffic outside where people like walk in our neighborhood or whatever.
Well,
It's
hopefully it
very
doesn't go
different.
too loud and the dogs outside of my window don't hear them and start barking.
So nonetheless, so okay, so we got these misconceptions, right? And that one that pulls people back from, pursuing buying these, right?
Hmm.
But let's just say someone says, "Hey, I like that you're talking about these market inefficiencies, and like this might be able to help me." What are some of the benefits of buying mobile homes that you have found? So we've already talked about how insurance and property taxes see them. That there's these misconceptions from the marketplace. What are some other benefits of buying mobile homes?
I am a cash flow investor. So my cash flow, my return on my investment is much higher in mobile homes than anything else I have found. So that is one of my biggest reasons. Now, we're also mainly in the affordable housing space. I
Okay.
mentioned I have some stuff that's of the affordable housing, but I keep the majority of my portfolio in the affordable housing space
Okay.
because I believe we're in a recession or really close to one. I've been wrong for a long time on this topic, but eventually I'm going to be right if I keep saying it. But
Sure.
the really important part is that short sale I had in the past. Like, I'm not going to repeat that. And
Right.
if I'm mainly in the affordable housing space, which is already massive demand in my market,
Yeah.
as people lose their jobs and have to go down rent levels, we're going to have more people in the affordable housing space, which means I'm going to have a larger demand. So maybe I can raise my rent. I'm not looking at that. I'm going to have a larger applicant pool to get the very best people in my properties to better
Mhm.
rent them out. I have found that people stay a little bit longer in my market, or sorry, in mobile homes in the affordable housing space. For one, they don't want to move around, but the blue collar handyman, handywoman we mentioned earlier, they make it their home
Yeah.
when they're renting, and they
Right.
don't want to move around all the time.
And does yours often have you say so you're very specific that you like buying mobile homes with the land tied to it. So it's not like in a park where you're having
Hmm.
lot rent. And then sometimes you have like a bit of land with it. Sometimes, would you say, or what does that
Yeah,
look like?
yeah. So now I have bought them in the parks, like you're going to look at that one. I
Sure.
bought those, and those have made me really good money, even higher return on our investment. But we just don't own any land.
Different. Yeah, it's just a
Uh,
different model. It's a different strategy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't get to make the rules. That's one of my
Yeah, that's
reasons
a
that I don't
downfall.
absolutely love. But you talked about different size lots. We've had some at 0.09 acres, and I've owned acre and a half.
Yeah.
And so I call those larger lots, the acre, acre and a half. Those are my lotto tickets. Most of those are like right outside of city limits. The city's eventually going to grow there. I'm going to cash flow and cash flow and cash flow until one day a builder knocks on my door and says, Adrian, we want to buy this so that we can turn it into a strip center or whatever it is, or a $500,000 neighborhood. And I'm going to say,
Exactly.
great, write me a big check. So it's kind of land banking you can
Yeah.
kind of think about. Mobile home
Yeah.
parks are another good strategy for land banking, but you get to cash flow it until they buy you out.
Exactly. Yeah. My mobile home park, actually, we looked at it. The zoning could also allow for 72, I think it's 72 units for a multifamily. Like if you
Mm,
just bulldoze, because we almost own an entire city block, you could just bulldoze it and put like 72 units there. Um, we'll see if we decide to wait that long for someone to come in and say that. But at the same time, I think that's really smart, right? And when people have land, you don't often always get land with houses, right? And so, a lot of times people settle more into that, right? They get a shed with a lot of toys,
yeah.
different things like that. And so, um, well, let's say, okay, so someone's moving into to buying. So you're talking about the benefits of buying. So you've got, cash flow, the numbers. You shared earlier, you're all in for 20, you're renting it for 450. You have others that you're all in for different numbers, and but you're getting a great return. um I think that this is really huge. Talk to me about your thoughts on this. You were just in California teaching on this. People who are in a high cost of living market, and California seems to be one where And Florida's another, right, where there's high cost of living areas where then people are fleeing to, trailers, mobile homes, manufactured homes for that affordable housing. Not only investors, but homeowners as well. But let's speak to the investor side. What are your thoughts for people who are in high cost of living areas and considering, like what's your pitch for them to consider mobile homes?
I mean, it's the only affordable housing.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, Farah that's out there where I got to teach with Farah. She's doing, I don't know how many dozen this year, fix and flip. She mainly fix and flips them inside of parks.
Yeah.
And she's selling them out there. It sounds crazy to our numbers, but for $200,000 with lot rent without even land. That's
Right.
super cheap
And
out around Cal.
lot rent can be like 1,000 a month or something. Like, I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, that's on the low end for them.
Yeah.
And so our
Low.
numbers, it sounds very high, but out there, that's super affordable and super on the low end. There are even mobile homes out there that sell for millions of dollars. They have
Right.
the right view, they're in the right park.
I read
So
somewhere in California that there's a park that's like waterfront, and it's like it's crazy, like the to own a lot there in the park. I think you can own a lot, so like I don't know if it's like a mobile home park subdivision type thing or like
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know. I remember reading about that one time in California. It's like in like a phenomenal, like it's worth, like the individual spaces are worth like $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know, and I'm not good at famous people, but there's this lady that's really famous, bought a mobile home, and they've done tours of her house, like the crib houses, whatever,
Yeah.
and they've done it with her because she's famous and she bought a mobile home, and she says in those videos, "Look at my view." And it is not
Yes.
her primary residence, but she bought it for the view.
Exactly.
We've got people around the country that have them for Airbnbs because
Exactly.
people want to be on the lake or in the mountains. And it's just
Exactly.
another way to get your experience of what you want more affordable.
Exactly. So let's move fast. People are saying, hey, you know what? I'm buying in. I see the market inefficiencies. I see the benefits. I'm buying into the idea of owning these. Any tips for due diligence? Someone's wanting to, I'm gonna go buy, I'm used to buying houses, right? Or maybe I haven't bought anything before. Some general tips to buying a mobile home on the due diligence side?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of small things around them that are definitely different. The big one I always like to bring up, if you're in a 1980s, look for this gray plumbing that's within underneath the sinks and everything. It's a polyurethane. I think I actually
Yeah,
might have said it.
polyurethane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it one day, maybe another decade from now. I'll be able
Yeah,
to say the
and it's
word.
often written on the piping
Yeah.
itself.
Essentially, it looks like gray PEX. There was a class action lawsuit. If your insurance sees it in any pictures, they're not going to insure you.
Yeah,
What happened is the joints on it, they had like these little brass fittings, they fail. And
yeah,
mobile homes do not like water.
no,
So they fail. So you replumb it. But mobile homes, remember, they're built in a factory. They're built to be very efficient the way they build them. So it's
yeah.
not that hard or expensive to replumb a mobile home.
And let's speak just very quickly to repairs. You've repaired houses, you've
Mhm.
repaired mobile homes. Are they similar, different? What does that look like cost wise? Do you use the same people? What does that look like?
You know, it really depends on what do you want your end product to be.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, Mark, he's the best mobile home fix and flipper I know. He says he takes the trailer out and puts the home in. If you looked at
Interesting.
his photos of the inside, same thing with Fair that I was just mentioning that fix and flips them in the parks in California. If you just looked at the inside of their homes, you think it's a brand new home on a show
Right.
floor.
Exactly.
Now they put the same products as those houses. My rentals, I don't. Remember,
Mhm.
I'm in the affordable housing space. We're in a very different type of market. So yeah, maybe I'll put wall paneling back up. Or if we
Right.
have to do a lot of work, yeah, I'm just going to put drywall. So we can upgrade the homes to be
Okay.
the same material that are in a house. But you kind of have to know your end product. What do you want it to look like?
Yeah.
And
And same thing with houses. You don't want to
yeah,
over improve something. Like,
yeah,
you see people, investors make that mistake all the time, is when
hmm
they over improve something where it's a neighborhood that you should never go above Formica, but you're
yes.
hitting marble and everything. You're like, "Yeah, okay, you watch too many HGV shows, right?" All right, let's go back to due diligence. Um, you know, any, when someone calls you about a mobile home, what are some of the general questions you're asking and things that you're trying to look for to, either say, yes, I want this or no, I want to stay away from it.
Well, I'm like you, I'm a problem solver, so I don't really ask many questions about the home itself. I want to know what their real problem is and if I'm able to help them solve that solution.
Yeah.
But either over the phone or probably more in person, I want to know if they have the title to the home, even if it's real property where it's a home and land together.
Okay.
I still want to know about the title because that could cause some problems with closing on it.
Sure. Like if they lost it
Yeah, if they lost it or they don't even have it at all.
or it's still being financed and they don't have it.
Yeah, so that's a question I want to ask about. The years, so that 1976 year again, if it's older than that, the quality is not as well, to be really nice there. So I am looking and asking some of those questions. Most of it, I'm gonna look around, feel around the property to see what I need to make repairs,
Sure.
but I'm solving the problem of the person and we're getting paid for that.
Yeah.
So I mean that's really what I'm there to talk about. Anything else, if,
You can write a check for. And I think
yeah.
that's important and I love that you and I are very similar, whether it's a house, whether it's a commercial building, land, or a mobile home. Why does that person have a investor standing in front of them? Why would you sell such a nice house like this or a nice trailer
Hmm.
like this, right? As our friend Pete would say. So, is there anything that would cause you to not want to buy a mobile home?
So I have walked away from a few. One of the mobile home parks I was doing business in, they wanted to give me 3 units for free and 3 months free lot rent,
Okay.
which that sounds
Sounds
like
like it could be a deal.
a great deal. One of the ones I walked into, I almost fell through the kitchen. And as soon as I opened the door, I just felt the heat wave of moisture and mold, and
Yeah.
I could almost taste it in my lungs.
Mm,
I'm not a rehabber. I'm not good at rehabbing. I don't enjoy it. I've done one accidental fix and flip. I don't get enjoyment of seeing the progression of it. I like the people side of it.
yeah.
So I was gonna have to do a massive rehab on this. So I said no because of that. Now, maybe if it was years earlier and I was a little more hungry, yeah, maybe I would have done it then.
Sure.
Uh, but
Or
I
you're more
just,
prone to flipping or something, and you're like, hey, yeah, here's an
yeah,
opportunity. Yeah.
somebody, they did not tear those down. Somebody did take them and rebuild them. They
Okay.
just were not for me.
Right.
So I do not, I've done some bigger rehabs. I don't love big rehabs. So
Okay.
I'll pay a little bit more to have not have to do the work. I know my skill sets, as we're learning all this, we learn about ourselves, what we're good at. So I go find someone that needs help on a not so big rehab. And then that's what I would prefer to buy.
Got it. I like that. I think there's some important things. Zoning is really important.
Mhm.
I know in my area, there is and this is something that's very common is across the nation is like there is this prejudice against them where a lot of municipalities and even counties, we have parishes here, that they're like limiting the areas more and more where you can actually have them. And so when
Yeah.
you're buying one, what's that land zoned for? Is there an overlay allowing for that mobile home to be there? Is it grandfathered in? So, for example, I bought it was 4 mobile home spots. It's like
Mhm.
micro park, right? The guy all separately metered. I mean, beautifully laid out. Think of it as like the 4 boxes of a square. Um, but what he didn't realize is that code had changed, and to now, basically, you can only have one mobile home per half acre.
Mm,
And so what happened, because he did not keep up with that, he didn't understand it. When I went to go buy it, I ended up only paying for 2 of them because the way that he lost his grandfathered in status was when the power goes off for over 6 months. Well, he sold one of the trailers and so no trailer there, no power. The other one, a tenant tore up and he just left it, turned the power off, both of them. 6 months over,
yeah.
he now is downsized to 2. And so it cut my purchase price in half. And it was just a very hard lesson for him to learn. So things like zoning, things like understanding if you're grandfathered in and the risk to being grandfathered in, right? And then the other part there is just, you know, there's a lot of opportunity with them. As you were saying, with different exit strategies, like you can flip them, you can buy and rent them, you can buy and sell them on financing, you can live in them yourself, you can do different type of exit strategies. I mean, I have on my phone um, a photo of a workforce housing mobile home that was created with I have a 4 unit and a 5 unit where it's individual studio. And so think of
Mm,
of a single wide mobile
yeah.
home, and there's doors with with steps going into them on each side. So there's stuff like that, right? Like different uses of them. Um, anything, otherwise, like it's important to understand like the wind, like we're down where like hurricanes happen, like wind ratings. So there means things like strapping them in. So like if you're interested in learning about mobile homes, you need to spend some time learning about them. There's just some nuances. Same thing if you were to
Yeah.
go buy, a house in the mountains or a house by the water. Like people, you want to become, if that's going to be something you're going to do more of, you should learn more about them specifically. And so as we start to kind of start wrapping this up here, if folks want to get into investing in mobile homes, I heard that there's a great book that they can read, that can give them some great basics. You want to share about it?
Yeah, I've got a book, same color as my shirt. It's How to Buy Mobile Homes. And it is a story of my journey through mobile homes, but then through it, I teach how to invest in mobile homes.
Yeah.
I teach everything in here. And so yeah, you can pick it up anywhere you can buy a book, basically. I let Amazon do all the hard work of printing it
So
and shipping it.
we'll put the link in the show notes, but for folks who are listening, what is the book called? And just reshare that part one more time.
How to Buy Mobile Homes. And if you want the full name, How to Buy Mobile Homes, an unorthodox guide to capitalizing on a hidden niche in real estate investing. It's
I
a
love it.
mouthful. It's a yellow book.
Yeah, yeah. You and highlighter yellow is huge. I thought when you said it's the same color as, I thought instead of saying my shirt, I thought you were going to say my blood because like, when it comes to you, like
Yeah.
I swear, highlighter yellow is your
We'll
thing.
we'll have to
Um,
chat another time about marketing and how that's become my thing.
It is. And so to tease that, I knew about you and your shirt long before I knew you personally. So do you mind showing your shirt? Not the one you're wearing right now, but the other one?
Yeah. So it's My Wife Buys Mobile Home. This is actually the new version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's My Wife Buys Mobile Homes. If I'm in my buying market, this is what I wear all the time
Yeah.
because I need to let everyone know what I do. I'm a referral person. We didn't touch a lot on marketing, but
Yeah.
I buy most of mine from other investors. And then the
Yeah.
other way is what you teach of realtors. I
Yeah.
love working with realtors. And I
Yeah.
just have to remind them all the time. So I wear a shirt.
Hey, I buy them. My wife buys them. Yeah, I love it. So I love that part. Let me ask you the question I ask everyone as we start to wrap up here is, what is one lesson? And it can be real estate, it can be mobile homes, it can be, either one really. Um, what is one lesson that if you would have learned it sooner, you would have seen, maybe success sooner, more success in your journey? What do you think that would be?
So hard to pick one.
Hmm.
I'm going to go with mindset. So I am very deep now into the mindset world, the woo-woo world, but the self-help world, whatever term you want to use. But I believe I mean, you can read my book and buy mobile homes. You don't need to do anything else. But our mindset gets us in the way. That's
Yeah.
usually what stops people from actually taking the action. So I wish I would have uh, not been so full of myself, just thinking I knew it all and my ego got in the way. I wish I would have known that and listened a little earlier.
Right.
Uh, I'm gonna just cheat and not ask you. I'm gonna go with a second one. The second one would be partnering. I kind of wanted. I think we get a little scared at first, and we have this like little greed thing that we like. No, I want the whole deal. I want the whole deal. And partnering with someone that knows how to do something better, or even if you give them a lot of the deal, you get to learn everything. You get to make an ally. I wish I would have done that earlier. I would have been further along. By giving
I love
away
that.
part of the deal, I would have been further.
I love that. It's that idea of earning while you learn,
Hmm.
versus, so many people are just like, well, let me just go pay to learn, and then, they make tons of mistakes that are hard learned. And it's this idea of, do you want, 100% of a grape or a part of a watermelon, right?
Yeah.
Like It allows you, again, opportunities. Yeah, look, I have been in a number of partnerships. I have also had partnerships that, were either ending or not continuing, or it was like a one and done or whatever. But like, so know that there's ways that you can protect yourself. We're all still cordial. Every single person that I've partnered with, if it hasn't gone as, according to plan or things like that, all can be figured out. So I love you sharing
Mhm.
that. If people want to get in touch with you, so obviously we're going to put in the show notes your book, How to Buy Mobile Homes by Adrian Smude. The link for Amazon, I'll put that in the show notes. But what's a great way if folks want to get in touch with you?
I mean, my website is lifestyle-rei.com. If you
I'll
just
put
want to
that in.
shoot me an email as well, I mean, you can just shoot me an email directly, Adrian at lifestyle-rei.com if you have any questions. And then I'm on social media, Adrian Smude or Lifestyle REI. I'm mostly active on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm on a few other social media platforms as well.
I love it. I think this is a very important topic. As I started off saying, is I think that anyone in the US would benefit from considering mobile homes as an investor, whether it is, an opportunity in your market to provide affordable housing, whether it's by flipping for people to be able to buy to live in, whether it's you selling on financing, whether it's people to rent, an affordable financing
And,
part. I think it's great.
and you missed one more. What about the wholesalers that get these leads and then just
Exactly.
say no? They're not helping the
Exactly.
seller and they're just leaving money on the table. At least learn enough to help the seller
Yeah.
and then sell it off to someone else.
We could keep going. Wholesalers,
Yeah.
agents,
Because I see that all the
lenders,
time. Yeah.
lenders who don't want to lend, all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, Adrian, it's always fun talking to you, friend. Like, it's always a blast. You and I mean, we had to remember to start the podcast earlier when we
Yeah.
we got on, but I appreciate you. I love what you're doing and I love how you market yourself. And so I'm looking forward to having you back to talk about marketing on another episode. But until then, guys, reach out to him. If you want to learn more about mobile homes, make sure you connect with Adrian and also pick up his book. I know I have it, I've read it. And so, yeah, thanks for joining in today for
Yeah.
another episode.
Thanks for having me and thanks for putting out this good education so everyone can get more of it.
Yeah, look, that's the goal, right? Trying to
Yeah.
try to help folks in the way that I've been helped by others. So, all right, guys, stay tuned. Another episode coming. We drop episodes every week, and appreciate you guys turning in today.